father of modern psychotherapy, talked a lot about this also, had a very actually spiritual point of view in that where do we actually get this information from? Well, we could talk about that a lot, but in this area, we're talking about intuition in professionals. So between the client and the therapist. So I want to say we get information from the client's energy, and we will define that, right? Let's not be vague about that term. And now I'm going to talk about some actual therapy examples. I don't know if you've heard of Peter Levine, but he's a multi-award winning therapist who developed somatic experience. SE is one of the world's most important and well-known trauma therapies for PTSD and stress. So he talks about being attuned with the patient. He talks about co-regulation of the nervous system. So this is a very biological, this is in this therapy, right? Biological kind of description, co-regulation with the patients. It sounds rather lovely, but not terribly scientific. So, but it's interesting, isn't it? The way that he feels that's what's going on between the therapist and client in unraveling their trauma. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, head of she developed the modern hospice about 80 years ago, the modern hospice therapy. She was from Austria, and she went to America to develop this. Before the hospice movement, I mean, children would be lying in rooms on their own dying because no one knew what to do, right? It was just, in the West, it was just a situation they couldn't handle, right? So Elizabeth Kubler-Ross talked about sitting with the patient. She just talked about sitting with the patient. So we have all these examples, and I'm going to now show you the slide of this that is, it's going to maybe explain this a little bit more. So Elizabeth Kubler-Ross talked about sitting with them. You've heard of craniosacral therapy, and the craniosacral therapy is one of the larger philosophies in craniosacral therapy. It was developed by John Upledger. It's called the Upledger technique. He talked about melding with the patient and synchronizing with them. So lovely, lovely expressions here. R.D. Laing, Scottish psychiatrist of 1940s, a quite famous psychiatrist because he tried to change the way people thought about mental illness. He talked about getting into the patient reality. So all these people seem to be suggesting that there is there's more that can be done here in the therapy room and also in the intuition room with being, well, we've got different words, melding, synchronizing, attunement, getting into their reality, right? So all these people had different ways of saying it. And whether you're an MD, here is myself in my office in Hong Kong, or whether you're a psychologist, chiropractor, naturopath, the whole point of this exercise of, let's say, medical intuition is to improve your abilities at getting to the bottom of the patient's problem more quickly. So yes, we do tests and we do the normal procedures, but we want to get to the diagnosis more quickly by doing the correct tests in the beginning, not the end, and also guiding us in what therapy might be best for that patient, especially in the area of complementary therapies, which is my specialty, as I'm a holistic therapist. So this is all based on my 30 years of consulting and my experience combining it with modern neuroscience and philosophies of the East. I think it'd be nice to go a little bit deeper into this. And I want to mention now, Carl Jung, as I said, was a big fan of this, but you've heard of Werner Heisenberg. Now, he was a physicist around the Second World War, a colleague of Einstein, who developed the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. So, as he said very clearly, Another quote, something has to be added to the laws of physics and chemistry before biological phenomena can be completely understood. In other words, none of these guys really understood what was going on, but they knew there was something. There was something here before we'd understand how we as human beings even function. So let's look a little bit at this, at the energies of the human body. Human light energy, I call it, because actually it is light. We can think of, and in terms of electromagnetic energy, in a simple way, we all understand electricity, we understand that. And then we can go a little bit bigger picture and think in terms of Wi-Fi. Like if we have the password to the Wi-Fi, we can tune in, can't we? We can tune into different frequencies. We can be better receivers. So moving on, we know our hands emit electrical, magnetic, infrared, ultrasound, gamma rays. Enzyme system in our body are controlled by signals of color frequencies of light. Our cell gateways that allow nutrients in are controlled by pathways of light. This is how things come in and out of our cells. And then color is so important to us, fractions of light. So we've got blue is calming for us, red excites us. On a physiological basis, it will raise our blood pressure and pulse. We know this. We are hardwired to light and color. We've got electricity in our brain neurons. And then we've got color in food. So the antioxidants in food, the blue anthocyanins in grapes and aubergines, right? Antioxidants. The red in tomatoes contains lycopene, which protects against prostate cancer. So the color in food is what's good for us, not the stuff inside so much. There's a reason we're attracted to the shiny red apple, full of its red color and anthocyanins. So we've got this whole life story going on inside us, right? This is my research. It's in my book. I wrote 10 years ago. I'm a pioneer in light of the human body. But moving on to what it does in intuition, we saw the slide of the DNA. The DNA releasing photons of light. Our heart is also a huge emitter of magnetic energy more than electrical, many times more than our brain. So we see this radiating out. So imagine, and no wonder other people can feel like if we're angry or if we're happy. And no wonder that if we've had lunch with a friend who's just had a divorce and is really depressed or angry, we come away feeling a bit like that, right? These things are infectious because it's energy, real energy. This is electromagnetic radiation that is coming from us. And this is our intuition and our buffer in the world also, which is another story, is about knowing this helps therapists resilience, because this is also a buffer in the world. This is why when people come too close to us at the cash point machine, getting money out, right, we don't feel happy because they're in our space. They've transgressed our buffer. Okay, so what happens when we emit light? On the left here, we've got two pebbles dropped in a pond, and overlapping ripples in the middle. So in this analogy, the therapist or doctor is a pebble, and so is the client. And yes, there is a huge amount of information, because in light physics, the wave contains enormous amounts of information. If you have article to one bit of the wave, if you have access to one bit of the wave, access to the lot. So actually, from the therapist point of view, you've got access to tons of information once you develop your skills. And in the advanced teachings, we could talk about holographic resonance in this. And we can also talk about it on a quantum basis, because once you have photons of light, you have all quantum phenomena, including non-locality. So there's a lot of science in here. The musicians amongst us know that light waves interfere in the way that sound waves do on the right. And they can cancel each other out, or they can magnify each other and create a great resonance, right? It's very powerful. So waves are waves. And if you're familiar with musical waves, we like the word resonance, we like the word harmonizing. So this is where the information is to be got. And I do teach the art and science of accessing this information. As I say, this has been on the back burner for too long now. This non-verbal communication skill. I mean, yeah, we all know if someone walks in with a limp and they look dirty, right? Yeah, basic observation is great. But this is like more subtle senses, more of a sixth sense and observation that, as you've seen, I've based on biology, I've based on physics, both standard physics, holographic physics, and we could talk about quantum physics, but not in 25 minutes. So there's greater teaching about talking about periodic entrainment of light waves, biomagnetic emissions, and the Schumann resonance. For now, if any of you would like to contact me, these are my details, my social media details, and on my website is my course in teaching for therapists only, because I believe that we have a different skill set, teaching them these skills. So I'm going to stop talking now and be delighted to receive any questions. If you have any questions, we have a few minutes to talk about questions. Otherwise, I'll keep talking. My delight to talk about, I am a light specialist, they call me the light doctor, and to talk about this light basis of intuition, the premise that we're all connected in this web of light, this interconnectedness of all things, this oneness in consciousness that I have very quickly explained, I think, the psychological and the scientific basis of this. So happy to answer questions by email, but also I have this course, and actually I'm going to do a promotion around about Black Friday and offer a huge reduction in it also to get this work out there a little bit more. It's not enough to have experience. It's not enough to have scientific theory. You actually have to have both. You have to have real experience and not just talk about it, especially in order to teach other professionals, even the massage therapist, right? They're in contact with the body all the time, and they get huge amounts of intuition.